we started the video a little bit late because we had a big engaging the culture section where we didn't want to put it on video. So this will be a little bit shorter this week for the teaching time.
So if you missed it, you should come in person.
Yeah, you gotta come in person to get all the juicy stuff behind the scenes.
You missed out.
And it was kind of, not as deep as that, but bring it back up just in a practical kind of conversations that I seem to have had several times this week. I was walking with a friend and we were talking about brokenness and how hard discussions can be in a church. They were trying to figure out how to come back to church, and then with my kids, and I really cannot remember the context because I've had them a couple times recently. I think they were like discussions around some of these worldview things with their friends. But one of the things that we keep talking about with my kids, and I was talking about with this friend, was like, we feel like being uncomfortable is such a problem. And it's just not a problem. Like it's like
We're supposed to be peculiar and uncomfortable.
like if it's an uncomfortable conversation, I don't mean like red flags, real problem. I mean like if it is an awkward, that's not an issue. Like you just have it anyway. That's the good thing about being different. You have hard conversations because you love somebody. It's not a problem. And the church feels like how do we do it without being awkward? You don't. You just go in awkward. Like just embrace it.
In fact, that is what the church often does, is we don't want to have a conversation that's not perfect with a little red bow that might spark some red flags. Guess what? Our kids are struggling. They're crying for help. We need to have this conversation.
This might be inappropriate for kids that age. They're looking at it all day long on their phones, and it's
exactly. And if I think about the conversations I have with my kids, or that we have with our kids, that are the most necessary, they're awkward, right?
Are.
Like you have to get in all the gross stuff, and they're just weird. And it's not a problem, you have it anyway. And it's the same with their friends and the church. Like everybody should be having these weird, awkward conversations because life is weird and awkward. You know? Anyway, so we've just been crossing that with a friend. I just feel like I keep saying, I don't know why people struggle so much with being uncomfortable. Like just
on that note, people will ask us, about visiting our class, and we'll say, just come on. What age are y'all? We're all ages. What marriage situation?
Second year in college.
Do they have kids or not kids? Some do.
Yes.
We're just a bunch of weirdos.
The church still says this is a 20 screen.
Is anybody under 20? I don't think so.
Yes, right there.
William.
I just don't understand why we feel like being uncomfortable sometimes.
Me too.
In my mind, I am.
It is funny.
So in that case, invite whoever. We're so glad that you're here. We're so glad anybody's here.
You know what? I went over there and got this because we brought this tassel for 4 straight weeks. It's part of Peculiar People. And guess what? You're not going to find anything about it today either. I always put it at the end of the notes that we hadn't got to them. But y'all,
Melissa actually did our number 2, engaging the culture from the class.
There it was.
She had one on her walk. You hear that? On her walk.
Just be uncomfortable, it's fine.
That's right. That's what we said to John. We were like, John, you're having spiritual conversations. You are engaging the culture. He's engaging kids that are drinking in their parents' house. That's real life, rubber hits the road kind of stuff.
And again, what is the Great Commission? As you were going, disciple them. So I was telling John is that all the kids that he's talking to is saying, why don't you drink up? They're all Christians. They report to be Christians.
Yeah.
They report to be Christians. So the point is that even though we have conversations like that, or he does, you are discipling. That's what you're doing. What does a disciple do? It points you to the rabbi, to your rabbi. Anyway.
I hate editing. Okay.
I didn't say anything.
First Peter, I did. 1 Peter 1, verses 13 through 17. This is actually where we are in the service, although I think he's preaching on Palm Sunday today.
I cannot believe it's 10 o'clock and we're just now starting here. Okay, we're going to make this one study that was about a 3-week study. We're going to get 12 weeks out of this joke.
That's right.
But I'll say this, to make it even longer. It's weird how this has happened in the last 2 months, is we are spending more and more time on the engagement culture section because, I think y'all realize that there really is a spiritual battle going on, and every Christian has this sense right now that it's more serious right now than I think it's ever been in my lifetime. It's serious. It just is. It's being hit from every angle, and I'm not sure where we're ultimately going. Well, I know where we're all going, but as a culture, I'm not sure. Anyway,
and it's so ironic, to me, just so ironic that a newscaster is on there saying it's people that believe in God and they're subject to him and his laws and his word, and then there's people
They are
that
God.
believe they are God, and I was like, I can't believe he said that. I mean, I really can't believe he said that on national news. Okay, so 1 Peter 1:13 through 17. Therefore, get your minds ready for action by being fully sober, and set your hope completely on the grace that will be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed.
Okay, now the reason we have these chairs, this is what I do is
So
we're
he can
talking,
interrupt
is
me.
so I can interrupt you, and we say, wait, did you hear what that said? So y'all just got to bear with us, which I do that anyway when we're teaching.
Yeah.
I love that right there. This starts with, so get your mind ready for action. What Paul's telling you is now it's time to do some work. It is not theory, it's not Bible study. Once you get this theology in your brain and you understand what God wants you to do, you are expected to do it. I love that. Get your mind ready for action.
So get your mind ready for action. Like obedient children, like we're talking to our children, do not comply with the evil urges you used to follow in your ignorance, which we said this morning. That doesn't mean you don't have the evil urges.
Yes, oh yeah, that's what I want to see.
Light flashing, we
This-
don't have evil urges.
This is the whole reason why we got the chairs, that we're just gonna talk like this. Yeah, that's what we're saying this morning. We looked at that and go, this is the point here. Who is Paul writing to, by the way? A bunch of atheist morons who keep sinning?
Persecuted Christians.
He's writing to Christians. Yeah, these are persecuted Christians, but he's writing to Christians. And he's saying, so don't keep doing that. Here's the first thing you can glean out of that. Yes, you can sin and you can have moral failure. And guess what? You do it every day. This idea of a moral perfection tends to handcuff us, and then I can't have any spiritual conversations or engage the culture because I'm not perfect. No joke. No joke. We got to get off of that. We're going to say why we're striving for moral perfection, although it's something we will never achieve until we're glorified. Third tense of salvation.
And I also am burdened by all of our ministry, Satan is firing those darts at people in ministry that are, stepping down because they've had a moral failure, or stepping down because they embezzled money, or stepping down because, they had an affair or whatever.
That would be a moral failure.
Yeah, that's a moral failure. Okay. So, anyway, like obedient children, do not comply with the evil urges you used to follow in your ignorance, but like the Holy One who called you, become holy yourselves in all your conduct. For it is
Now, let
written.
me ask you this. What does holy mean? Somebody give me a definition of holy. Right off the top of your head, don't think too much about it.
To be godlike.
Oh, so you just got that for the last few weeks.
It's
Dang
on
it.
it.
Minute, that's on it. No, you're right. So what does it mean?
Spoke it down.
You're right. Set apart. The reason I was trying to say it quick, make y'all say it fast, because what do most people say holy? If you haven't been thinking through this, the first thing you think of is good.
Good.
Morally, you think moral perfection. That is not what we think. The Holy Father is moral perfection in Catholic. That is not what the word holy means. What the word holy means is to be set apart, separated for a purpose unto God. It's not a moral issue there yet. It will be, but it's not yet. That's not what holy means. Holy means is to be set apart, separated for a purpose.
So, become holy yourselves in all your conduct, for it is written, you shall be holy because I am holy. And if you address as Father the one who impartially judges according to each one's work, live out the time of your temporary residence here in reverence. In, what's the word?
The fear of
Fear
God.
of the Lord.
Amen.
Because
Okay.
judgment is coming.
Okay. You ready for the video or?
We
6 minutes.
we had
Can we
6
do it?
minutes. We don't really have time. Oh, it's all so good. This is the third week that we've shown this video. Well, the first week was when everybody's going for vacation, but let's go ahead and do it. Let's just do the video and point out some stuff. We keep looking at the groundwork each week and never get to the punchline.
Okay.
Let's go.
6, 7, 8, 9. Can y'all see over my head?
Oh, here, I'll move. Nope.
Because he's gonna pause me a bunch of times.
Go there. Oh, that's right. I'm supposed to pause.
You probably heard the word holy
What
before,
calls it?
or at least
Okay. See, this is how we learn this stuff, because what you're about to see is how we do it. We're watching this, and we pause the video 14 times. With y'all, she tries to tell me don't do that, but y'all just watch it.
But you've already seen it, so
So you've already seen this video, so I'm just gonna pause you. We're gonna talk the way we do.
Amen.
Right, the first pause was, I laughed. Oh my goodness. The first pause that I made her do was I laughed. I was like, I just love the way these guys sing. It looks so dorky.
So, you don't have time for funniness.
Okay.
Singing it in a church song once or twice. And for most people, this idea is really just connected to being a morally good person. So God is holy because he's morally perfect.
Yeah, that is part of it. But in the Bible, the idea of holiness is even bigger and more rich. What it's really describing is how God is the creative force behind the whole universe. He's the one and only being with the power to make a world.
So here was the first pause. So he's talking, what is real holiness? And here it is. So it starts with this idea of creation. What does creation have to do with holiness? Because who's the only one who ever created anything? God, which makes him unique and unusual. He is separate. He is apart. His holiness begins with his grace. That's what it means by the one and only. One and only
Abraham
means
gave his one and only son. That was pointing to Jesus for that reason.
that's what holiness is. Holiness is separate, set apart, different, and that's why it starts with creation, which, by the way, is the first attack our culture does. God, he removes God as creator.
Gender identity.
And what is every other creation, whether it's in the spiritual world, Satan, satanic, demons, angels, good ones, bad ones, and people? What do all we do? We create nothing. We take what God has created and we refashion it. But we can't create a thing because God is holy and we are not.
We do puberty blockers and hormones and chop your breasts off if you want to be a male, but it is not.
We manipulate his creation, removing him as creator, making ourselves God. That's what we do.
Full of such beauty and life. And so all these abilities, they make God utterly unique, which is the meaning of the word holy.
Holy is unique.
So a helpful way to think about God's holiness is by using the sun as a metaphor. The sun is unique, at least within our solar system, and it's really powerful. It's the source of all this beautiful life on our planet. And so you could say that the sun is holy. And you can actually take this metaphor even further, in that the whole area around the sun is also holy.
Yeah, because the closer you get to the sun, the more intense it gets.
I like the
Yeah,
celebrated people.
so that very power and goodness that generates all this life is also dangerous. I mean, the sun,
Catch that. The light that celebrates all this life, is that what it said? Is also dangerous. And they all heard me say this before. Why in Revelation are these cherubim flying around the throne saying, holy, holy, holy? I'm telling you, it's not a worship service. It's a warning.
if you get too close, will annihilate you. And in the same way, there's this paradox at the heart of God's own holiness, because if you're impure, his presence is dangerous to you. And not because it's bad, but because it's so good. And so the first time we see this paradox of God's holiness, it's in the story of Moses and the burning bush.
So God tells Moses to take off his sandals because he's standing on holy ground.
Look how gnarly his
And
feet
Moses
are.
covers his face in fear, and God says, hey, don't come any closer. It's intense.
It's actually that intensity of God's holiness that's explored even more in the stories about Israel's temple, which was the main place where God's holy presence was located. And at the center of the temple was this room called the Most Holy Place. It's the hot spot of God's presence. And whether you're an Israelite living in the land around the temple or a priest working right in the temple, you're in proximity to God's holy presence, which is dangerous.
Yeah, this is a problem. So how's this supposed to work?
Well, in the Bible, the solution is that you need to become pure.
So like being morally pure.
I love this. So here's the problem. When you get close to an impure creature getting close to God, all Israelites understood this. I love this. They're going to talk about it, but Isaiah, you see this in Isaiah. What did he say? I am a dead man. Because all of a sudden he was in the presence of God and he knew how sinful he was. And in the Jewish understanding and in your biblical understanding, that means you're dead. Sinful people do not approach a holy God or they die. Period. So what the temple was and what your Old Testament demonstrated is very specific rules on what you had to do and who could approach a holy God and not be killed. That's what the temple was. That's what the process was. You had to be pure, which means you can't cuss, drink, or smoke, right? No. Every human being that showed up, that's why Isaiah said, woe at me, I'm a man of unclean lips, and I'm dead. Because he thought God was about to strike him down, because he knew he wasn't morally pure. God did something else to make him pure. That would then lead to moral purity later.
This helps me so much. Morally pure
Versus ritually
ritually
pure.
pure. when Jesus came and justified us, did he make us morally pure? Instantly?
No, you still sin. That's the point is,
He
we
made
can't,
us
we cannot make
able to
ourselves.
enter his presence.
Yes.
The veil was torn and we had the ability to go before the Most
Let's
High
keep going.
God.
Don't go there yet. Let's keep going.
Yeah, and that's easy enough to understand. But the Bible spends a lot of time talking about another kind of purity, being ritually pure, which is a state where you separate yourself from anything related to death, like touching things like diseased skin or dead bodies or even certain bodily fluids. All these make you impure. And becoming ritually impure isn't necessarily sinful. What's wrong is waltzing into God's presence when you're in an impure state. And so that's why God gave the Israelites very clear instructions for knowing when they were impure, steps to become pure, so that they could go into the temple again.
So that's what the book of Leviticus is about.
Right. But it doesn't stop there. This idea keeps developing. So later in the scriptures, we find this really interesting story by a prophet named Isaiah. And he has this crazy vision where he's in the temple and he's right in God's presence. He's totally terrified.
Yeah, he knows the rules. He shouldn't even be in there. And he's worried about being destroyed.
And then this crazy creature called a seraphim.
Yeah, that is a crazy creature.
Totally. So it flies over with a hot coal, and then it sears Isaiah's lips with the coal and says something really weird. Your guilt is taken away and your sin is atoned for.
So this,
Your guilt is taken away and your sin is atoned for. What did Isaiah do to get to that point? Nothing. That's the point. He did nothing. The Most High, sitting on the throne, commanded a cherubim to take a coal and touch his lips with it, and then he declared him ritually pure, and your sins have been forgiven. And that there's your one second. No, excuse me. There's your. You can do nothing for your salvation.
Yeah.
There it is. That's
And
what
he
it is.
says, not your sin is taken away, your sin is
Atoned
atoned
for.
for. Your guilt is taken away.
In other words, you can now enter my presence. That's what it means to be ritually pure. Isaiah was not pure. You are not pure. But there's a ritual purity that the New Testament, I get ahead of us.
Almost done.
To him. Isaiah is not destroyed by God's holiness. He's transformed by it. I mean, the implications of this are just huge. But there's one more development, this time from another prophet, Ezekiel. And he has this vision where he's standing at the temple and he sees water trickling out from it. And then that water turns into a stream, and then it grows into a deep river that starts flowing through the desert, leaving this trail of green trees behind it. And then it flows into the Dead Sea, making everything fresh and alive.
so instead of becoming pure first and then going into the temple, here God's holiness comes out from the temple, making things pure and bringing them to life.
That is such a big point. You see the reversal, what's going on here. For all these decades and decades and centuries, the priests and the people were told how to make themselves ritually pure so they could enter God. And in these visions, the reverse is happening. And guess who he's about to say, guess who picks up on this again? John in Revelation. You see all this imagery showing up in the book of Revelation again.
What does it all mean?
We don't know until we meet this man, Jesus. And he claims that he's fulfilling all of these ancient visions, but in surprising new ways. So Jesus, he went around touching people who are impure, people with skin diseases, a woman with chronic bleeding, or dead people.
I love this. Don't let the point miss you. You're watching Jesus touch the very thing that no other priest, no other rabbi, and no other Israeli was able to do. You were never to touch a man with leprosy. You were never to touch a woman who was bleeding. You weren't supposed to touch a dead body. Do you realize Jesus was violating all of the Messianic the ritual laws? Why? Because he was unique. He was holy. He was separate. He was different. He was the coal in Isaiah's vision. It was his purity emanating out. The one that could do that. In every other situation, all those rules and laws were designed because you ain't him.
And where did that coal come from?
Oh, I said this morning. I just said this because I thought, where ask y'all. Think about what Isaiah, where did the coal come from? Where did the seraphim go get the coal? Where? From the altar. What's on an altar? A sacrifice. He is the coal. That's what the cross is. The cross is that altar. He was sacrificed, became the coal, and the righteousness went out. Isn't that gorgeous? Your Old Testament is very important.
And then Ezekiel is telling us what we are.
And when he touches them, their impurity should transfer over to Jesus, but instead, Jesus' purity transfers to them and actually heals their bodies.
Jesus is like that holy coal in Isaiah's vision.
Right. And Jesus claimed that he was the human embodiment of God's own holiness, and that he and his followers were now God's temple, so that through them, God's holy presence would go out into the world and bring life and healing and hope.
Just like the
And so
water.
this is why Jesus described his followers as having streams of living water flowing out of them.
So this,
And that's why we are peculiar people, because we are a holy priesthood, a peculiar people, set apart, different, because we're bringing streams of living water out to the world. I'm gonna just stop there.
Nah, finish it. We're done.
is our part of the story where we find ourselves now, but where's this all heading?
So the last pages of the Bible end with a final vision about God's holiness. And this time it's by a guy named John. And in his vision, we see the whole world made completely new. The entire earth has become God's temple. And Ezekiel's river is there, flowing out of God's presence, immersing all of creation, removing all impurity, and bringing everything back to life.
Isn't that gorgeous? You see, that's where we're ultimately heading. That's what John said in Revelation. We're ultimately heading until the King of Kings and the Most High God resumes his presence with his human family on earth, and the entire earth is healed and Eden is reversed. That's the whole point. Eden was the fall, but the fall will be reversed. And all these gorgeous, beautiful visions that the prophets themselves did. And you notice that the prophets, when they had all these visions, you go read Ezekiel, they don't explain it because they didn't know. They could not comprehend what God was really telling them. They were writing those things for our day, post-Jesus, so that we can look back and go, wow, I see what you're doing. Isn't that cool?
So our question
Okay, what
for
was
our
the question?
title, how do we approach a holy God?
Oh, see, this is what, this all needs to fit together. Next week, we're gonna start right here. We're not gonna show the video again. How do we approach a holy God? How do we approach a holy God? We walk in the, excuse me, how do we walk in the Spirit? How do we approach a holy God? I had the answer on here. What was it?
Walking in the Spirit.
I specifically said, yeah. How do we approach a holy God? We have to walk in the Spirit. The next question is, okay, how do you do it? Here's a teaser for next week. Most people, most of our charismatic brothers, they get this wrong, or they get this to an extreme. Most of our charismatic brothers believe that what it means by walking in the Spirit is I need to jump, sing, wave my hands, and speak in tongues. I'm telling you, that is not what walking in the Spirit is. If you look at these passages, it is very clear what walking in the Spirit is. And it tells you that walking in the Spirit is the very essence of love. What is the greatest commandment? Love the God, love Jesus Christ said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and your neighbor as yourself. Walking in the Spirit is a true understanding of what love is. So if you want to know, if people say this all the time, I want to learn how to walk in the Spirit, what they a lot of times what's hiding in that mind is they see charismatics, they see spiritual high points, you know, where they had a great youth group trip or something, and they define that as walking in the Spirit. It is not. It's quite, I love Paul. Paul is practical. When you look at what he says, it's the armor of God. No, not the armor of God, the fruit of the Spirit. Just read all that fruit of the Spirit. Those are practical things. You ask yourself, am I doing that? If you are, you're walking in the Spirit. It has nothing to do with jumping pews or, I don't mean to be beating up on our charismatic brothers, but that's not what it has to do with. Okay, we got to get out of here. Dear Lord, thank you so much. It is so exciting. Deep breath, Lord. It's so exciting when we realize how you provided a way for us to be holy, separate, and pure, even in the midst of our sanctification where we fail. It just blows our mind. And what it should do is take the chains off and let us live for you strongly, without apology, and engage. Father, may we be that way this week, and maybe just get a tighter glimpse on how you want us to be. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. Okay, we're going to get this.